Welcome to the NERJ NYREJ podcast. I'm your host, Rick Kaplan, and we have a great guest today. His name is Matthew Fornaro. Did I pronounce your last name okay?
Yes, you did, Rick.
Oh, good.
Good
I'm good at
job.
screwing up people's last names. So, Matthew, tell us about your journey. Matthew is an attorney in Coral Springs, Florida. And tell us about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Sure, Rick. So my name is Matthew Fornaro. I'm a attorney here in Coral Springs in Broward County in South Florida. I've been an attorney for 23 years. I focus primarily on helping small businesses, entrepreneurs, and startups with their legal issues, including real estate issues. I started out as an attorney in 2003. I got into the law and wanted to go to law school because growing up, I liked, believe it or not, watching the People's Court. And I really got into like dispute resolution analysis and stuff like that. And that's what kind of turned me onto the law. So I went to undergrad as a political science major. So that makes me unqualified to do anything except go to law school or be in politics. So then I went to law school, graduated law school. I worked for a boutique law firm in Boca Raton doing commercial litigation. Then I worked for two AmLaw 200 law firms doing more commercial litigation, but for big companies, insurance companies, and banks. And then about 11 years ago, I decided to go out on my own and start my own law firm. And I wanted to focus on helping smaller businesses, entrepreneurs, and startups. So that's what I did. And I started my law firm out near where I live. I used to live in Coral Springs. Now I live in Parkland, but my law firm's in Coral Springs. And, I brought the law out to the suburbs to help all the people with their issues. And that's what I've been doing for the last 11 years.
That sounds great, Matthew. So, how is the Florida market? I mean, the real estate market is so hot in Florida, not just in Miami and South Florida. I mean, all over Florida. Everyone's moving there. You know,
Yeah.
are they going to put a border wall up there yet?
Yeah. I think we're a little too late for that. It's interesting, Rick, because, since COVID, well, before COVID, but especially since COVID in 2020, I don't know who's left in the Mid-Atlantic or Northeast because they're all here. So, my neighborhood, I live in, like I said, I live in Parkland and Broward County, and we've had, a heavy turnover. A lot of people who were here who've moved away and moved to like Tennessee and Virginia and places like that. And then they've all been replaced by people from New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, like en masse. Like I would probably say in my neighborhood alone, we probably had about 25% to one-third turnover since COVID of total number of people, and it's all people from the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. So huge transplant since, before COVID, but especially since COVID. And a lot of these people who are here now are still doing business stuff in, New York or New Jersey or Massachusetts or wherever they're from in the Mid-Atlantic or Northeast, and they're just operating out of Florida. It's really weird. And a lot of them are attorneys, which is really weird. But that's huge. Obviously, Miami speaks for itself. I mean, I defy you to find a metropolitan area anywhere in the country that's doing more construction than Miami. I mean, if you just take a snapshot and you look at pictures of, like the downtown Brickell area or out by Miami Beach over, just time lapse pictures, it's crazy. I mean, obviously Manhattan's Manhattan, but you look at the Miami skyline, it's looking more and more, particularly down by the downtown area and the Brickell area. It's really dense and there's really a lot of high rises of mixed use, a lot of residential stuff. So the market's hot. It's not as hot as it was. It's cooled down a little bit, but everything's big. I mean, everything residential is big and moving, everything commercial. Obviously, you've got your retail apocalypse fallout stuff, but still there's tons of mixed use places that are going up and, that are available and coming online. So yeah, it's even though, the market's tamped down a little bit, it's still hot down here, pun intended, and it's always going to be hot down here.
So the retail that you mentioned, it seems to be coming back quite a bit in a lot of areas in the country. uh, more to the uh, maybe boutique-ish type of retailer, a specialty type of retailer. And I would think with all the people that are moving there, especially the people from the Northeast, they're they like to shop in those type of a store. Um, so that being said, do you have a lot, you're seeing a lot of vacancies in
There's Yeah, there's some vacancy. I mean, obviously, the old-fashioned mall, has its problems, particularly, down here too. I mean, there's a high vacancy rate in traditional things, but I think people are missing going in person and doing things and buying stuff, particularly since COVID. And obviously, I love Amazon. I get stuff every day from Amazon. I get stuff every day from, well, not every day from eBay, but Amazon, yes. But and all online retailers, but I think people miss like the visceral feel of going and doing stuff. So there is like kind of a comeback for like niche, uh, like boutique shopping and like scaled down shopping and stuff like that. Like I know down here, at least near where I live, there's like the Amazon, like actual stores. Like there's a few of them that have opened up. There's been some reconfigurations of things like Barnes and Noble where they scaled down, the massive Barnes and Noble that had like the cafe and whatever in it, and they've scaled it down to a very dense, like new building. They've built a couple of those. There's other retail locations of non-traditional retailers like boutiques and things like that. So those are hot. Those are being built. There's a lot of development, particularly like where my office is in Coral Springs. They've redeveloped a whole lot of stuff and done a lot of mixed use stuff where like the ground floor is retail or commercial, and then the rest of it's like mixed use residential. So that stuff's pretty hot down here. Traditional stores and stuff, obviously like malls and strip malls, yeah, there's increasing vacancies, but I think, a lot of things are just transitioning to the more standalone or more like custom built like boutique shopping or entertainment experience stuff.
well, we also see a lot of those older malls being torn down and uh, put a open air type of shopping area and kind of try to put into some kind of a multifamily project as well. So it's almost on the idea of live, work, and play type of thing. But that's something that it probably works well in Florida because the weather is usually nicer than it is up north.
Yeah.
But you do have the hot summers. So have you been dealing with any of that where developers will buy something like a shopping mall, tear them down, and redevelop it with big box stores like a Target or a BJ's or a Costco, something like that idea?
Yeah, sure. That's happening all over the place down here in South Florida. I mean, I can tell you the mall that I grew up with, my favorite, or one of my favorite malls, Coral Square, which I was there the day it opened in 1984. So that's in Coral Springs, and that's like a traditional like Simon Mall where, obviously it's been ravaged by, Sears isn't there anymore, like other big box stores and other things aren't there anymore. So what's interesting is where Sears used to be out in the parking lot, they took over the entire parking lot, demolished it, and made it a multi-use high-rise building. So instead of a Sears parking lot, it is a mixed use like condo apartment retail space now. And that's kind of like in my city, that's what they've done. Other places they've done, what you said, where they just demolish the thing and replace it with like a outdoor based mixed use like entertainment district type thing. And then, they've got other things too, like probably three of the strongest malls in America that have very little occupancy rate are in South Florida. That would be the Aventura Mall, the town center at Boca Raton, and then the Sawgrass Mills Outlet Mall. And those really don't have a lot of vacancy rate, but they have a lot of mixed use development that's going on like the outside in the parking lots. Like for instance, Sawgrass Mills, they're building multiple high rises in the parking lots, which is really wild and interesting because that's also next to the arena where the Florida Panthers play. So it's really interesting to see that go up. And then I know like at Town Center in Boca Raton, they're actually taking the Sears that was there that's out of business and they're going to develop it into a like a mixed use multifamily housing thing. So there's a lot of that going on. It's pretty interesting to see this stuff. It's like, an old timer who remembers, like I said, I remember when my mall opened up, and now it's interesting to see when I'm in the parking lot, there's like a high rise where people never knew that that wasn't there. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on. And then obviously, our weather, other than when it rains, is pretty good. During winter, spring, and fall, and then obviously it's hot in the summer, but people love hanging outside, so that's why there's a lot of that mixed use entertainment, shopping, living stuff going on.
Well, a lot of that must keep you busy because there's a lot of zoning changes. Do you
Yeah,
do
there's
a
a lot
lot
of
of
stuff.
that?
Yeah, there's a lot of zoning changes, a lot of, commercial landlord tenant stuff. I do a lot of the commercial landlord tenant stuff, and I do a lot of the litigation related to the commercial landlord tenant stuff. So it keeps me busy. There's a lot of stuff going on. And then separate from that, there's a lot of, even though you're seeing traditional restaurants like, Fridays go out of business and Hooters go out of business and other places, there's a ton of other places that are coming in now that are knocking existing stuff down and building up like Raising Cane's and um like all kinds of different franchises and like the Bucky's of the world and stuff like that are coming in where they're taking over a bunch of places that have been not used or whatever, knock it down, replace it, and it's a brand new food franchise or whatever. So there's a lot of that going on too.
Well, a lot of venture capitalists have bought a lot of those big chain restaurants. And when they take over the restaurants, they're not looking at how we best serve our clients. They're looking at how do we best turn the revenues uh, to our benefit, So the first thing they do is they start cutting, 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 and the customer eventually sees all that.
No,
And that's what ends up happening. They go away, like a TG Fridays and things of that nature.
no,
But that's the nature of that beast. And now a lot of these new restaurant chains that are coming in uh, have learned from that,
no.
and they're a lot better than they were.
Yeah, no,
So
it's interesting. It's interesting because there's also a lot of investment groups and hedge funds that are buying the new restaurants that are expanding. Like I know it's funny because I was waiting for Dave's Hot Chicken to move into South Florida, which is a huge, franchise that's expanding. So they actually opened a location. There's one in Coral Springs now. They opened one in Boca Raton. So the day that it opened in Boca Raton, I went like, oh, it probably opened on a Monday. I went on a Friday when it was a little less crowded to test it out. And that day, that company actually was acquired by like a multi conglomerate hedge fund, like literally the day it opened. So it was very interesting.
yeah, I mean it is interesting that well, I that's the end game for a lot of these guys that start those chains.
Hmm.
They can cash out, and
Yeah.
which is I don't blame them for that.
Yeah.
But you want to keep that business going. The hedge funds they're looking to make money.
Yeah.
That's
No, I mean, it's, right, these new franchises are, they've learned from, decades of experience of, like the McDonald's of the world and then things like Subway and stuff like that. And they've basically perfected a lot of the formulas and made it, something that's generally like a long-term project, very short-term and more profitable than it used to be.
yeah. Well, that's a completely different world in itself.
No.
And but what you were talking about some of these. They tear down these shopping centers. They're putting up multi-families in the parking lot. Now, the multifamily business in Florida has changed a little, I would say, ever since that collapse, that apartment complex
Hmm.
or condominium complex
Yeah,
that
the
collapsed in Miami.
Surfside collapse,
I mean, now that I don't think the HOAs, I mean, they're crazy now. And then you had the insurance companies that have pulled out of the state, so the insurance, there's all these factors that went into these uh, condominiums that now I'm hearing that the condominium market is very difficult in South Florida, all over Florida right now because of all of that.
No, well, it hasn't affected the amount of building that's going on, particularly like in a place like Miami, downtown and out by the beach. Yeah, it's changed since the Surfside tragedy. Obviously, nobody can predict something like that happens. And then you have a lot of reactionary stuff regarding, uh, you know, building and development codes and, governance issues with associations kind of slowed things down a little bit. But, the Surfside thing, I mean, that was a relatively by South Florida standards, that was an older building. So, I mean, that doesn't really, those kind of issues shouldn't happen anywhere, but they really don't happen with the newer construction, particularly the stuff that's been built in the last, you know, I mean, the last 5 years, the last 10 years, the last 15 years. I mean, those are really high building standards, probably among the best in the country as far as what's required to be put in those buildings and everything. So
Well,
there's
I
been a lot of,
understand that
yeah,
the newer properties are like that.
yeah. The old stuff though, yeah, because there's,
So what ends
in,
up happening, are you seeing people that that can't afford those HOAs that are in the older buildings that they paid off their condo, they're on fixed incomes now or retirement income, and they can't afford it, and the banks are taking, someone's foreclosing on it or someone's taking it
yeah.
away because the HOAs are too expensive for them. Do you see that type of problem?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, the HOAs, HOAs everywhere and, condo associations, homeowner associations, co-op associations, they've all raised their rates, for various reasons over the last, well, not the last few years, for, I mean, through all time, your HOA dues only go up, they don't go down. So, but recently they've been going up like exponentially, particularly because of that, because of, I mean, most of that is tied to insurance. So, insurance is expensive and it's hard to get in Florida. And every time we get hit by a hurricane or something, it gets more expensive and harder to get. And then Florida also has a major problem with, uh, first party property insurance claims because they are out of control, particularly anytime there's a storm, because, you know, whatever you want to attribute it to, whether it's, people being greedy, insurance companies not paying, whatever you want to come down on that line or somewhere in between, there's always an issue and it always results in higher insurance, less access. And then with the higher insurance, it's higher insurance for, things like HOAs and condo associations because not just your insurance for your own unit, but it's for the entire building and everything surrounding the building. So yeah, it's affected homeowners and consumers because it's just, there's less and less companies and they want more and more money.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked the question, are you seeing a lot more of these? And I'm not sure if the property's um, owned by an individual and they can't afford these HOA fees, who can the condo association take over the condo or someone?
Yes, in Florida, they have the right to foreclose on the condominium or the home. So it's a lien right under the Florida statutes, either under Florida statute 718 or Florida statute 720, depending on if you're in a condominium or a home. So yeah, it's a powerful thing. Obviously in Florida, we have our homestead rights, which other states don't have, but the lien rights of associations is supersedes the homestead right. So they are allowed to file a lien on the property for unpaid association dues and expenses, and they're allowed to foreclose on those liens and take over the property, subject to, of course, if there's superior like mortgage lien or a superior like tax lien or municipal lien.
No, that's uh, for a condominium. No,
That's also for
there's
houses too.
and for houses.
Yeah, if they're part of an association, yes.
Oh, right. If they, because a lot of them are in these gated communities that have
Mhm.
associations. I get that. Now, what about the commercial properties out there? Are they having the same issues? Because they won't have like an HOA, or they usually have their triple net or something like
Yeah,
that managed into their lease.
yeah.
So has that gone crazy? With the
It's interesting because it's kind of gone crazy, but a lot of these, commercial landlords love when you sign leases. They love when you sign long-term leases, but they love having a variable portion in there where they're allowed to raise their rent via CAM. So, in Florida, yeah, commercial landlords love to go crazy with the CAM. So they pass every expense, every increase, every inflation, anything that gets hit, they try to pin through the CAM on the tenant. So yeah, it's affected the commercial tenants because, the CAM is variable and they put as much as they can in the CAM and the management dues, and that's how they pass along the higher, insurance rates for the building or the higher tax rates or, higher interest rates for what they're paying on the building, whatever. That's how they pass it through to the commercial tenants through the CAM. And then also when they do have to renew their lease, they, substantially increase what the renewal rate is going to be. And then if they don't pay it, they'll find someone who does.
so you're seeing that the all these lease renewals have big increases in them.
Oh yeah, they've always historically here in Florida, they've always done it, but now it's really huge. Like, I mean, renewal rates of minimum double digit increases in the rate of the new rate versus or the proposed new rate versus the old rate.
So I know there's a big difference in what real estate costs closer to the water.
Hmm.
Now, I'm sure that goes for commercial as well as residential. So are they having the same increases in their the real estate values, a little more inland?
They're all pretty much, I mean, obviously, like I said when we opened up, it's leveled off a little bit, but it's gone up everywhere over the last however many, I mean, decade plus. It's all gone up. The whole thing's gone up, not just near the water, but inland too. And then also, there's, the whole thing where, there's no such thing as a city being built out anymore because all they do is they go find old stuff, knock it down, and then build new stuff on top of it. So the concept of a city or a development or whatever being built out doesn't exist anymore. I mean, I can give you an example here in Coral Springs where the one of the oldest, I mean, Coral Springs has been around since the early 60s. So one of the earliest major construction projects or whatever was the Country Club of Coral Springs. So it was a master developed community with 18-hole golf course, a clubhouse, and then hundreds of properties around the golf course. So what they did a few years ago was they figured out, their clubhouse was getting old. The economics on a golf course have changed or whatever. So they essentially what they did was they reconfigured the course and made it smaller, but still made it 18 holes. And they got, variance from the county, from the city, and they sold off a bunch of the land that used to be the golf course and they sold it to be mixed use development. So now where the golf course used to be, the footprint is much smaller. They made it into multiple mixed use buildings and mostly high-rise apartments. And then they took the money that they made from the sale, reinvested it into the country club, and they actually built a new scaled down state-of-the-art clubhouse that was paid for entirely by selling off their land. So, that's kind of a microcosm of what's going on here, where it's not just, there's vacant land or whatever. I mean, they're creating the vacant land themselves, and they're creating the demand by taking stuff that previously existed, reconfiguring it, scaling it down, and then, selling it off and making it now multi-use thing. Like the other example that I also gave you here in Coral Springs is there used to be like one of the oldest buildings here was a high-rise, like 10-story office building that was on a busy intersection. So they took that, demolished it, and they replaced it with three high-rise apartment buildings and mixed-use buildings, and it's hot. It's sold out, and it took essentially a dead corner and made it vibrant, and that's kind of a microcosm of what they're doing down here across the entire South Florida area.
So was there a lot of land with that property? Or
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of land. I mean, there was some land, but I mean, they're much more efficient what they're doing now because instead of having like a big parking lot, now it's a parking garage instead of a parking lot. And, they're putting stuff a lot closer to the road now where there's not a lot of frontage or whatever. It's right up against the street. So they're making a lot more use of the space and they're not leaving a lot more open spaces. So they're putting more stuff in those spaces.
so now so they have to put in their own garage to accommodate
Hmm.
any of the tenants that go into that, whether it's commercial or residential.
Yep. And it's all built into the same
So
superstructure.
how do they get around that? That couldn't have been in the original zoning. That had to
They
be
get
kind of a fight.
There, I mean, it's interesting because you would think there'd be a fight, but I mean, they go get their variances and they go get their changes and whatever. And I mean, the municipalities in the county and the state they're all for the new sales tax and property tax and whatever it is they're going to get. So, I mean, they'll gladly take the trade-off of having, an empty or a dead piece of property, and they'll trade it for the revenue that they get from it, even though it means more people and more stress on the
Right.
infrastructure, the school system, whatever. But I mean, it's a net gain. It's a net gain. So that's what they go with.
Now, do you see a lot of 1031 exchanges coming down there from different parts of
Yeah,
the country?
Yeah, there's a lot of 1031 exchanges. There's always been a lot of 1031 exchanges. I personally don't do 1031 exchanges because it's not my cup of tea. I don't really get into it. I've actually litigated a few 1031 exchanges and I've been involved in a few 1031 lawsuits, and that really made me not want to do the transactional side on them. So, but yeah, there's always 1031 exchanges taking place down here.
So I'm interested to find out what the litigation would be on a 1031 exchange. What is it, a problem with the property that someone's buying or property or someone um, that is not entitled to the 1031 exchange?
It's a little bit of both. I've been involved in a few different 1031 exchanges where the uh the seller, took liberties with doing a bunch, or I should say the buyer took a bunch of liberties with doing things with the property before they actually did the 1031 exchange, and then the deal fell apart and there was a whole mess. So I mean, there's that issue. There's, the issue where there actually wasn't like a real exchange that took place. Like I won't say fraudulent, but it wasn't an even like exchange of properties. It was, one really expensive property in exchange for one really non-expensive property. And, there's some shenanigans that went on with it. So there's a lot of issues that happen with 1031 exchanges when they go bad.
Well, there'd have to be something going on with that. So, some
Yeah.
kind of shenanigans because with the 1031, you got to have all your checks in place
Hmm.
before you put that transaction in. If you're going through the proper type of 1031 exchange company,
Hmm. Yeah.
you know,
And
you
that's
know,
another thing too. Without people, we've had, there's a lot of, well, I won't say there's a lot. I've had issues with the 1031 with the company that's holding the exchange. So it's been interesting. I've been involved, like I said, in a few different issues with that.
so you listen, everyone, make sure you have a good company when you're doing the 1031 exchanges. So now you were talking to me earlier about AI. which, we talk about that quite a bit on the
Hmm.
show. And, one of the things that a lot of people have told me, especially law firms, that they do use AI, especially in putting together contracts. But
Hmm.
even though they put together the AI and the AI figures everything out, they still have to go through it with make sure everything is properly put together.
Correct. And
So,
that's what I believe too. I'm a big fan of AI. I use AI heavily in my law practice. I use AI in running my business. I use AI in my social media and all stuff like that. But I make sure that I'm in charge of it and I quality control it and I fact check it and I check all the legal citations. And I check everything and verify before anything goes out from me into the world. And that's, I mean, AI is great. It's probably the biggest technology innovation of all time and it affects everything. But the problem is that you have to take ownership over it and you have to make sure you're, like I said, you check everything, you quality control everything, and you're in charge of it. And the bad rap that AI gets and a lot, it's been really bad in the legal industry is that a lot of people just, hit the print button or hit the send button and put out into the world whatever the AI says. And it's a major problem because sometimes the thing hallucinates, particularly if you're in a large language model or you're in an open universe where it's not closed off like a specific, like a specific legal engine or a legal search engine or something like that. And you run into real problems. So that's my AI soapbox. Love it when you got to take control of it. And it affects every business. I mean, it affects real estate, it affects law, it affects everything.
yeah, well, I've had people on the show that have specialized in AI, and one of the things that they had mentioned is that if AI is great, it will put everything together that you need, but AI has the ability to take information from all over the world. So when
Hmm.
they put things together, that could take something that might be done in Europe somewhere
Hmm.
that doesn't fit our rules and regulations in this country and
Hmm.
put it into that contract. And if a
No, it's
and if
yeah,
an attorney goes through it, whether it's an attorney or a real estate broker or whatever, they go through it and they can pick up on that. If they don't go through it, like you said, just press send or send it out and have the client sign it. There could be a lot of legal issues that come up from that in itself.
yeah, there have been, and there continue to be a lot. And you think people would learn their lesson by now, even though relatively speaking, it's been a short period of time. But there's still enough stuff out there where bad things have happened, and people still haven't learned the lessons. People still haven't caught on, and they keep doing it.
So, do you think this is going to replace anyone in a law firm? Or do
Yes,
you do? So,
yes, I
as far as
think AI. AI is going to create a lot more jobs. AI is going to take a lot more jobs, and AI is going to take a lot more jobs of people who don't know how to use or embrace AI. So if you know how to use AI as a tool and as a supplement to who you are and what you do, no matter in what industry it is you're doing it, it's going to be useful and it's going to help you. If you ignore it and you just kind of do things the status quo or do whatever, AI is going to overtake you and may replace you. So yeah, I mean, I think AI is going to phase out some, uh, you know, low hanging fruit kind of stuff. Um, but at the same time, it's not going to totally replace people, but it's going to replace people who don't figure out how to get on board the AI train.
so you use AI quite a bit. What is something that you would use it for to make your life or your practice a little easier to operate?
Well, for example, like document management. Instead of me having to go through thousands of pages of documents, the AI can help me go through the thousands of pages of documents. Instead of me having to spend, hundreds of hours doing it myself, the AI helps me cut down the time and then I review what's relevant or whatever I tell the AI to look for. And, I mean, that's an example how helps me collate things, helps me organize things. It does, I mean, it does essentially anything you want it to do.
Now, can you use it for research?
I have AI legal specific software that's it's not a large language model. It's a limited universe where its only database is, like, for instance, the Westlaw Library or the Clio VLEX library, where it's in a limited universe where it can't draw from things that aren't germane or relevant. So that stuff, yes, you can use that for legal research. Can you use like Chat GPT or Claude or Grog for legal research? You can, but it's going to turn out very badly for you because it's going to go all over the world, like you pointed to, no matter how good the prompts are, the instructions you are. And again, the main thing about no matter what AI you're using is you have to use very substantial prompts to limit what it is you're looking for and special to focus on what you're looking for. But if you use an open universe large language model, it's going to be a disaster.
Very interesting. And this is all in beginning stages. So I'm sure there's going to be people that think it's going to be the end all, and and they'll try to run their business with AI, and there'll be a lot of downfalls from it.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, there's going to be a lot of wins, a lot of victories, but there's going to be a lot of losses too. And the losses can be mitigated by doing the due diligence, but people are people and they're going to be lazy and not do the due diligence, and there's going to be problems because of it. I mean, there's going to be problems no matter how much due diligence you do because it's just the nature of, it being technology and a machine, and, technology and machines can fail you, but at the same time, you want to limit that as much as possible. A lot of people don't limit that as much as possible. They just take it as it comes, and if bad things happen, oh well, there you go.
so let's say someone's purchasing a commercial property.
Hmm.
Now, a lot of these companies they'll put it in a trust, or they'll put it in a LLC or something on that idea when they purchase it, and they come to you and you say, "Oh well, let me put together all of this." Now, you would use AI in sorting out some of the paperwork and some of the due diligence that needs to be put together, and then you review that whole thing before the deal goes to to market or to the sellers or buyers, whichever it is.
Yes, to a certain degree, yes. Obviously, yes, I review everything and make sure I am in control of everything and I verify everything. But yes, I would use AI to at least help sort and collate the data that's sent to me regarding the deal.
So you take all the data that you uh, uh, put together
Hmm.
from the client, whatever they submitted to you, and you put it all together. Then you put it to AI to put the final pieces in place.
Correct, depending on the circumstances and then depending on what AI put it through. Yeah.
And then how much of the information that you sent to AI does the client get to do you let the client know?
Yeah, of course.
So you
I
let them
pass.
know that
Of
it,
course,
it
I'm fully transparent and open with everything I do. And, I pass those time and those money savings onto the client. So instead of it taking me 10 hours to do one thing, just saying hypothetically, now it takes 2 hours to do five things. So I'm still doing 10 hours worth of stuff, but instead of you being charged 10 hours, now you're only being charged 2 hours.
so is this a good thing for you, or it
Yeah,
sounds
it's
like
a
it's
good
a good
thing.
thing for the client. Is it a good
It's a
thing
good
for
thing for
you?
everyone as long as I have enough business, which I luckily do. Yeah. I mean, I just am able to do more work every day.
Okay, so this is a good thing for you, but
Yeah, it's a good thing
but
for me. I'm able to do more
be able
stuff
to
and help
bring more
more people.
clients in.
Yeah, and I can, help more people instead of doing one thing in a day. I can help five people in a day.
So what are some of the legal matters that you handle in Florida right now?
So, a lot of what I do is litigation based. It's, a lot of real estate litigation, a lot of breach of contract issues, a lot of business divorce issues, a lot of, you owe me money issues, I owe you money issues, you didn't comply with my contract, I didn't comply with your contract issues. And then, a lot of traditional document drafting, document review, document revision, and then the real estate litigation and then the real estate due diligence stuff.
Okay, that sounds like it keeps you busy.
It does. Yeah. Even with AI, it does keep me busy.
So Matthew, tell me if someone's interested in doing some transactions in Florida. Now you can handle any transactions in Florida,
Yes.
correct? Okay. Anywhere else in the country?
Yes. I'm licensed in DC and I'm licensed in one of your big markets, New York.
Oh, okay. So if someone wants to get a hold of you because they need to do some business transactions, whether it's in a business or a commercial property, how would they get a hold of you?
Sure. So the easiest way to get a hold of me is just go to my website, which is fornarolegal.com, which is my last name, FORNAROLEGAL.com. And it's got all my contact information. It's got my number, my email address, all my social media. There's a ton of videos on there. There's a ton of white papers. There's a ton of blogs. They're all cross-linked to each other. So you can type something in my website and search it and probably has the answer. And the answer is actually, probably going to be pretty decent because it's not going to be hallucinated or made up. So that's how you get a hold of me. And if you can't figure out whatever from looking at my website or checking out my stuff, just feel free to call me or email me.
So the firm goes by Fornaro attorneys or Matthew
Fornaro
Fornaro?
Legal. Yeah, it's
Hmm?
Matthew Fornaro P. It's Matthew
Fornaro.
Fornaro PA doing business as Fornaro Legal.
Okay, Fornaro. Okay. Well, Matthew, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And I if I have any legal issues coming up, I'll be sure to visit you when I'm down in Florida. And again, you're in Coral Springs,
Yep, I'm in South Florida.
South
So
Florida.
love to have you, Rick. We'll go see a Bruins game or a Heat game when you're down here.
Yeah, but it's got to be. I was telling you before we started this that I went to a Celtics Miami Heat's game in January, and I came out and it was 38 degrees. No
No,
one wants to go to Miami when it's 38 degrees.
no, don't worry. It's not 38 degrees too much down here. So
No,
that was it was we had a our 2 weeks of winter were very harsh by Florida standards. So
oh, believe me, I couldn't wait to come back up north to get warm.
yeah.
But I do enjoy going to South Florida. So, but again, I want to thank you, Matthew. And again, your website is FornaroLegal.com.
Yep, that's it.
Okay. So if anyone wants to get a hold of you, your information will also be at the end of the video if you're on YouTube and watching this. If not, it will be in the description of the show on the podcast platforms that we are on, almost every one of them out there. So feel free to contact Matthew with any of your legal issues that you want to have corrected. Thank you, Matthew. And I want to thank you all for listening. I'm Rick Kaplan from the NEREJ, NYREJ podcast. Until next time.